Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, we're really thrilled to be back in Hialeah, and I want to recognize, where's the mayor? Is he standing up here? I want to recognize, you guys got a great mayor, and so we appreciate. And really, this city managed and developed charter school, the Hialeah Educational Academy. I want to thank you for the hospitality. We have a great announcement today, and we've got a lot of great things with education that we're going to be announcing over the next few weeks that are a result of the legislative session. I do want to recognize our Commissioner of Education, Richard Corcoran, who's here with us. We have one of our engineering teachers from here at the Academy, Michael Pena, is with us. Dana Martinez is here. She's a parent of a student here at the Hialeah Educational Academy. Carlos Alvarez is the principal here, so I want to thank him for having us. We have Senator Ileana Garcia, so where is she at? Is she here? She did not come. Okay, she's probably caught in Miami traffic. We usually would have Senator Manny Diaz, but I think he's got, after the long legislative session, I think he's taking his family for some well-deserved R&R. And then we've got a number of representatives. I've seen most of you. Maybe not everyone's here. I saw Representative Brian Avila's here. Is David Barrero here? Oh, good. Demi Busada Cabrera. Oh, there you are. Good. Okay. Bush, James Bush, thank you, as always. And I saw Tony Fabrizio came up here with us, so I want to recognize Tony. And Alex Rizzo, back there. Hey, buddy. Well, we're really excited about being here in Hialeah for today's announcement. I'll just say, we've done so much really since I've been governor, but you just look at what we did in the last legislative session. Yesterday, I signed into law a bill that moves Florida away from the FSA into progress monitoring, which is something that a lot of people have recommended because we have the tools to do it. And so that's going to be something that we're going to maintain our commitment to high standards and academic performance, but we're going to do it in a way that's really going to provide meaningful feedback for teachers and parents. It's going to help students, and this is something that we funded fully, and we're going to be able to do. So this year is the last year for the FSA in the state of Florida. I want to get beyond that. Okay. One of the things we have really stressed was education that is providing pathways for success for students. And some of that may be in academic disciplines that will be in high demand, like STEM, which is what they do a great job here, but also providing certifications for students so that if they're graduating high school, they have a certification, and yes, you go to college if that's what you want to do, and we want everyone to have that opportunity. But I'll tell you, if you're certified in some of these fields right now, you can make really, really good money, and you can keep making good money. This is definitely a job market that you want to be in if you have certain skills. And so we want to make sure students know that. They're equipped, and then they can make the best decisions for themselves. But if you look at what we've done in Florida, they've done a great job in a lot of places down here in South Florida of graduating kids. Yes, they get the high school diploma, but then they also have another certification, which really makes a difference. We just were in, when we did the FSA, the bill signing for progress monitoring in St. Pete, we were at a high school, St. Pete College runs a high school where they graduate not just with a high school diploma, but with an AA degree as well. And so this is all, I think, very, very important. And I think what they're doing here, they're offering certification programs in different fields that are high demand, like law enforcement, nursing, STEM, and fire rescue. And if you look, oh, by the way, last year when so many other places were defunding law enforcement, Florida, we stood by law enforcement. We did $1,000 bonuses for every single sworn law enforcement officer and firefighter in the state of Florida. And I'm happy to report in the budget that passed the legislature at my request, we are going to do it again. $1,000 bonuses for the second year in a row for every single person that's wearing the uniform. And if you also look at nursing, to be able to meet that demand, I mean, there's a huge, huge demand in healthcare right now. And part of it was be exposed by COVID, but part of it was, I think, there even prior to COVID. And so the folks that are going through programs related to nursing, they're going to have a lot of opportunities as they get beyond school. And so this is an example of really meeting needs that exist in a really, really big way. So I want to commend the folks here for doing that, and many other places across the state of Florida who are stepping up to the plate and understanding, you know, we do that. We also, because we've led the country in migration since COVID started, we have need for more healthcare infrastructure to serve people. We have need for more police officers and firefighters. There's just going to be need for this. I can tell you, we're going to sign this bill, HB 3, in the next couple of weeks. What we did to say that people that leave Seattle or Minneapolis or New York, where they're treated horribly as police officers, if you come to Florida and you're qualified, you take a position, you're getting a $5,000 signing bonus. That is going to be the law in the state of Florida. I tell you, you're going to have a flood of people in law enforcement that are going to do whatever they can to come down to Florida. And think about it. Do you want a state that's a law and order state that has the backs of law enforcement, where all these qualified people want to come? Are you going to have safer communities in that Florida model? Or are you going to have safer communities when you turn your backs on police, when you cut their budget, and then when you have these prosecutors that won't prosecute people? I know which model I would take, and that's what we're following in the state of Florida. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So today's announcement really builds off a lot of the things that we've talked about, a lot of the things that we've done in Florida. We are able and proud to announce an additional $289 million for programs that will improve student achievement and close learning gaps. And this money includes the following: $105 million for after-school weekend and summer learning camps that will help struggling students catch up. And it can be done, you know, in the summer, this summer coming up, but it also could be done now. You don't have to spend it right away. $47 million to purchase curriculum in line with Florida's new standards in English, math, civics, and Holocaust education. $50 million to support reading intervention and professional development for reading coaches at schools. One of the things with Richard Corcoran leading the way, as well as our Speaker of the House, Chris Sprowls, is early learning and early literacy really is the key. If you have kids at third grade that are reading up to grade level, those kids are likely going to be fine in middle school, high school, and have a pathway to college if that's what they want to do. If you have somebody that's deficient by third grade, the chance that they fall out and are continuing behind standards and end up even maybe not even graduating high school, those chances increase dramatically. And so we've done more to focus on early learning and early reading, and we're going to continue to do that. $44 million to support STEM programs and math acceleration, including hands-on learning opportunities for students. So that would be something, obviously, they could expand some of the things they're doing here with that very easily. $22.5 million for parent mentorship and extra educational resources to help parents continue to reinforce what's taught in classrooms at home. There's unfortunately a debate in our society now about whether parents even have a role in school with the education of what's being taught in their kids. I can tell you in Florida, we believe the parents are integral to kids' education. And we think they have every right to know what's going on in school and to be you know, very, very important part of their kids' education. And so that money will be able to provide resources for parents, particularly as we start getting into progress monitoring. You're going to be in a situation where there'll be an assessment in the fall now, and you're going to get those results back within 2 weeks. So now you do the FSA, you do it at the end of the year, you get the results, you know, kind of far into the summer. you have no ability to remediate because the school year's already over. Now you're going to get that. The teacher's going to get feedback within a week. The parents are going to get feedback within 2 weeks, and then they can really work to help remediate any deficiencies with the students. And so, but the parents' role is very, very important, and we're happy to be able to put resources towards that. And then finally, $5 million to help establish regional mental health resiliency teams to support districts with delivering services to students. And my wife, the First Lady, has worked very hard on resiliency in our schools. It's something that's been overlooked by our society in the past. You know, we think it's something we got to tackle head on. Now, I will say, in Florida, because we actually had kids in school, our kids are much better off than in some of these other states where they locked them out of school. And so we're excited about what this funding can do. Any type of achievement gap, you know, we want to work on addressing. I think what we've seen in the data is that the math proficiency kind of suffered the most with COVID, and so we want to make sure districts are able to remedy that and do. And we're also really, really happy to, since I've become governor, put a renewed emphasis on American civics in our schools. You need. What I tell people is, and this is a great example, they're preparing students to do a variety of different things. You're going to have students that are going to go. They're going to be police officers. They're going to go into other types of skilled fields where they have vocational credentials. Some will go to university. Some will go post-secondary. And all that is great, and there's a whole bunch of different ways where you can go to realize your dreams. But no matter what you do, everyone that comes out of our school system in Florida is going to be called upon to exercise the duty of being an American citizen. And that means something. You need to understand what it means to be an American. You need to understand the founding principles and ideals that built this country. You need to understand our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and why the founders designed it the way they did. And you need to understand all the different people throughout the history of our country who have fought for freedom, and whether that's freedom in our country, overcoming injustice, or whether that's fighting people overseas like we did when we defeated Nazi Germany. People have been willing to lay down their life for this country, and it's because it means something. It's because we're fortunate to be Americans. And I just think that every student that graduates from high school here needs to have that proper foundation and proper understanding. And so whether it's some of the things we've done for more training for teachers with bonuses attached to that, whether it's our civics and debate initiative, you know, we've done more in the last 3 years than just about any other state, and we're going to continue to do it. So there's money in here that could also go to increasing civic literacy. And look, there's a lot of problems with our society. There's a lot of divisions, and I'm not saying this is the only thing, but if we all had a proper understanding and we all agreed kind of on the foundational ideals, I think it'd probably be much better. It'd be easier to agree on some of these other things, and so I think it's really important. So we're happy to be here. I think that this is going to make a big difference. This is only one of many things. I mean, we were talking to some of the teachers coming in, and we'll highlight this a little bit more in depth in the coming days and weeks, but we did the biggest increase for teacher salaries in the history of the state of Florida in this year's budget. I mean, it's a really big deal. And we've done much more, and we will talk about that, and we will be able to make sure that we get and so the teachers, the overall per pupil support highest in history, overall support highest, and they tell me that some enterprising legislators may have put $2.9 million in the budget for the Hialeah education. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked at the budget. I haven't reviewed everything in the budget. It's a lot big, but we got to go through a lot. You know, I don't know kind of how all things are shake out, but I don't know. What do you think? Should I approve the $2.9 million? All right, so I hereby approve $2.9 million right here. So that'll be in there when we sign the budget. right, well, I'm going to let some other folks come up and say a few things, and so let's have Principal Alvarez come up here and provide some remarks.
I want to thank the great Governor DeSantis, because he thoroughly understands that one of the biggest priorities in this state is, and our biggest priority and biggest investment is the youth and the children that we serve across the state of Florida. And putting us in a position, and we're here, and we're here with our teachers, we're here with our administrators, we're in the trenches, and we know what it's like. We know the challenges that come before us. So we know that there is a necessity to have additional funding to put us in better position to incorporate supplemental programming to our school, whether after school, whether Saturday tutoring, whether enrichment programs in the summer, whether hiring interventionists to work in small groups, because that's what we need. We've understood that the learning loss is not going to be made up in 1 year. And having these additional dollars coming to our schools, all schools throughout the state of Florida, is going to do good by kids, for kids. We will continue using these resources to enhance our career and technical education programs and position students like the law enforcement officers that are here today that are graduates from this school, and this school created a pipeline for them to give back to their community in the field of public service. And we do the same thing with firefighters. We do the same thing with those in the medical academy, certifying them as EKG technicians, phlebotomy technicians. We pave the way for those students that want to go into the film industry through our mass communications program, get certified in all the Adobes, and we teach them also through our academy pathways, the law Ps as well. So Governor, on behalf of City of Hialeah Educational Academy and all the schools and all the students in the great state of Florida, we are eternally grateful for having these additional dollars to go back to what matters most, our students.
All right. Okay, where's Michael Pena? Come on.
I just want to say thank you to Governor DeSantis, specifically with STEM, as our approach here is to try to get the students to understand that what they're learning in the classroom goes beyond the classroom. That when they leave our classrooms, they don't think, why am I learning this? That they already know, and it prepares them for their future. STEM is something that personally and professionally has been something amazing for me. Not every student wants to go to college. Some of them want to go to trade schools, and that's what it's all about. And it's for their future. Thank you again, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, Dana Martinez. Where is she?
Right here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you very much for inviting me. As a parent of 4 beautiful children, 4 beautiful girls, I've had them using every STEM project that they have offered here. I had a graduate from 2014 that works for University of Miami that took advantage of the dual enrollment and finished with her AA and certifications. I have one in 2020 that graduated as well, and also had a phlebotomy certificate that lead her the path to choose nursing. And I currently have a set of twins that are doing using your intervention, because one of them is a little bit delayed, and I can see the process. I can see how she has improved. I can see how she likes being able to finish her assignment on time by getting pulled out a little bit. So definitely I am a perfect example of how the school has helped the children, and it's great. I mean, it's awesome to see them progress like that. So thank you again.
All right, thank you. Okay, our Education Commissioner, Richard Corcoran, where's he at?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I do want to echo some of the comments. I think your principal said it well. You go back to the ancient Greeks, Romans, it doesn't matter, Locke, Hobbes, or founding fathers, they all say something similar, and that is, if you want to see what the future of your country looks like, show me how you're educating your children. And it is. And it's been a real pleasure to serve under a governor who we've had the greatest 2.5-year crisis ever in academia in this country, let alone the state of Florida. And from the very first day to today with these announcements, the governor has said we're going to put front and center the well-being of our children. And that included making sure at the very beginning when there was people saying that putting graves markers out in front of our offices and telling the governor you're crazy and all these mass hysteria. No, the governor made sure that every single child had a seat in a classroom to get face-to-face instruction, which is the best mode for that student. And then it just continued. I mean, it's not just that stuff. Then we had, quarantines, and now we're quarantining healthy kids. The governor ends the quarantines and gets these kids to be able to stay in classroom and not have 10, 14 days of learning loss. Removing the masks and the barriers and all those things that happen where students, especially in those primary grades, can't even see the expressions on their teachers' faces and get the interaction that's necessary for them to progress and have that well-balanced education. And then today, all of the stuff, even, we were the first state to do a summer learning loss with the initial CARES dollars, and now you see it continue, every single thing, building on that literacy, building on that learning loss. It's every time there's a crisis, it seems like we go backwards. And the governor said, no, with this crisis, despite all that's happening, we're going to find a way to move forward. We're going to find a way to have after-school programs year-round, summer intensive learning camps, supports for parents now. Parents are going to actually be able to partner and work with their teachers and doing those things necessary to get their children to be not back to where they were, but to go beyond where they were. And now we have, I call it a SEAL Team 6, but now we're going to have a SEAL Team 6 led by the governor and the First Lady of resiliency. They say, and I've heard the First Lady say something along the lines, that adversity is the doorway to greatness. And when we can have our kids understand that the last 2 years, yes, they've been difficult. Yes, we're going to have these preschool, after-school programs, during summer programs to get you back where you need to be and go beyond. But that adversity, overcoming that adversity, having that grit is a key component to that child being successful in this world. And so all of this is just a great celebration of putting children first in Florida. From day 1 to day 365, we will not rest until those children get that world-class education they deserve. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Richard for helping craft this these awards that we're doing. I think we're hitting on a lot of very important issues and I think areas of education, and we've got much more to talk about. As I mentioned, we did do the progress monitoring bill signing yesterday. We're going to do a lot to highlight what we've done for teachers, what we've done for other aspects of schools in Florida. I think it's really exciting. It's also actually just as parents, my wife and I were looking at some of the stuff in the legislature. One of the things they did, I think, was about $1.3 billion in tax relief, really targeted to try to combat some of the inflation that we're seeing. And so household staples, things like gas and school supplies and things that we know people are going to have to buy, you're going to be able to have holidays for that. One of the things that was in there, and I have a 1-year-old daughter that's about to turn 2, is a tax holiday on diapers. And I can tell you, we go through a lot. I mean, it's like my oldest is 5, she's good. My son's about to turn 4, he's good. But, I have the youngest that's about to be 2, and she's very advanced and smart, but we've got a little runway there yet. And so just from a parent's perspective, the schools people, we tend to think of that, and that's very important. But the ones that aren't school age yet, and this wasn't my idea, so I cannot take credit. They did it and put it in there. And so I know there's a lot of parents of young kids that when that goes into effect on July 1st are going to be very happy to be able to save, because there's certain things when inflation's this bad, maybe you cut back on some certain stuff, but it's kind of hard to cut back on diapers when you got a little one. I mean, that's just the reality of what you have to do. So we're excited about a lot of what's been able to do, and we're excited about today's award. So thanks everybody for having me. It's always great to be back in Hialeah, and we were happy to take some questions. Yes, ma'am. So here's what I would say. I mean, On the rent, I think in the budget there was, I think, hundreds of millions of dollars for assistance for people that, particularly with dislocations for COVID, and so that's in there. There's also, I think, fully funding for what we've promised for affordable housing. But if you look at what's happening, general inflation is causing all this stuff to go up. I mean, it's not like this is happening in a vacuum. You also had the CDC basically had a moratorium so that if people really didn't have to pay rent, and I'm not saying people here weren't, I mean, some may not have been, but what's happening is now all these people that own these properties are charging more to make up for what was there. Biden was warned about this. He was told that this was going to happen, and they had to take it all the way to the Supreme Court to be able to do. Then you also have the issue where there's a lot of demand to live in Florida. Rents are going up all across the country, but in a place like South Florida, this is kind of the center of the universe right now. We've never had a situation where so many people, when they're fed up for all the nonsense they're dealing with in other parts of the country, heck, even other parts of the world, the number one place they think to come now is South Florida, Miami. And so there's just a lot of demand. So we've provided a lot of support for those issues, and I think that will probably help some. I think you do just need to be able, and some of these local governments, you know, they'll talk about, hey, the price of rent is going up, but then they don't let new construction happen the way they do. You have to increase the housing stock in the state of Florida. Some of that will be apartments that may be more affordable, but we also need more single-family homes. I mean, there's families that want to come that are feeling this pinch too. So I think we did a lot in the budget that will go into effect, but I also think making sure that we're increasing supply. There's things that the state has been supportive of, and different communities in Florida have approached it a little bit differently. And that's your right to do it, but if you're being very restrictive on this, it's hard to then turn around and say, oh, the costs are going up. I mean, you need to be able to expand that supply so that people have the ability to do it. But here's the thing. We warned about this Bidenflation last year. They came in and did this massive spending. The Fed has printed trillions and trillions of dollars. The biggest increase in the money supply that we've seen in quite some time. Of course you're going to have inflation when that happens. This was something even people like Larry Summers, who's a Democrat, was high up in Bill Clinton's way, he said, if you pass this, it is going to cause inflation. And so that's what's happened, and I don't see it ebbing anytime soon. I think this is likely to be something that we're going to have to contend with. So yes, we're providing support on the housing. We did a bump $1.3 billion in tax relief to hopefully mitigate some of the crunch that people are feeling. But make no mistake about it, what you need to do is reverse those policies that are causing the inflation to begin with. Why are we not producing more energy here in the United States? We have places, we have pipeline that could go. Natural gas, we have more, they don't do permits for that like they used to. Anwar up in Alaska, there's more oil and gas up there than in Saudi Arabia. It's a massive, massive opportunity. And basically, from the time Biden's come in, he said no, no, no. Well, of course that's going to cause, and it's not just fuel prices. When energy prices are going up the way they are, that permeates the entire economy. It's more important to transport, transport goods, create goods. Everything is permeated by that, and it helps contribute to rising prices. And so let's do what we can at the federal level to reverse some of the policies that have caused this, and let's try to give people relief throughout our economy. And if they did that, it would make a really significant difference. They have not shown an inclination to do that. What I can tell you this, though, you refuse to do energy in the United States, and then you're going to go down hat in hand to Maduro to try to beg for oil down there? No way. We're not going to accept that. ESSER dollars, yeah. It's ESSER. ESSER from what was it, CARES Act 2?
ESSER 3. This is
yeah, ESSER 3. Yep. So these are, and so what we've done is, if you look at how it's done, they're not necessarily prescriptive on exactly how you need to do it. So, for example, within STEM, we want the schools to be able to have some flexibility in how they apply it.
And how is it distributed? These are charters and districts.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Are these dollars requested by schools?
Well, I mean, it's kind of thing, we have support for schools. We've been pushing this out in a variety of tranches. I mean, we've done a number of different awards. And so, if a school doesn't want it, I mean, what if they don't want it? What would you do? You'd send it somewhere else? They all want it, though. Yeah, they all want it.
Several researchers come forward and say that your Surgeon General misused their information and their studies when it comes to the vaccine recommendations. What would you say to them who say that the Surgeon General basically cherry-picked the information? What do you say to them?
I don't think that's true. I mean, I think you got to understand, when you're in that realm, coming out for the recommendation that our Surgeon General did, that's like verboten. You will be blackballed. You'll do that's just the reality. What he's doing is he's leading on this, and I think his view, and I agree with it, is the burden of proof is on the people that say you should get a 5-year-old kid vaccinated for COVID, okay? And they have to carry that burden. It's not the burden for a parent to say they should prove why you shouldn't do it. And if you look at the clinical trial, for example, with the Pfizer for the 5 to 11, there was no severe COVID in the vaccine arm, but there was also no severe COVID in the placebo arm. So the fact of the matter is these kids are at incredibly low risk from COVID. You do this, it's not clear, necessarily. I know certainly for teenage boys there's an increase in myocarditis cases. I think that has been absolutely done. So I think what he wanted to do was just say, hey, here's the recommendation. You're free to do what you want as a parent, but I think a lot of parents were feeling pressure to do it even though they didn't necessarily think that was the right thing to do. And so in Florida, we're a free state. You can make those decisions. Just as we oppose COVID vaccine mandates, we would also, of course. But we also, if parents view the data and they want to make those decisions, but I can tell you this, throughout this whole time, Florida would do something, we would lead, whether it's having beaches open, kids in school, protecting businesses, no vaccine passports, protecting people's jobs so they didn't get fired over the vax. Every time we stepped up to lead, there'd be an outcry, you'd have people say you're not following the science. And then 6 to 12 months later, almost everybody else would do what Florida's doing. What you're seeing right now, you're seeing vaccine passports being repealed in different parts of the world and in different parts of the United States. Of course you should never have had that. You're not going to say your civil rights depend on your personal choice on something involving a shot. How did it ever come to that? And I can tell you this, if Florida had not led on all those issues, it would have gotten much worse in this country. We would be very restricted. You would have really, I think, a suffocating regime of passports and mandates and all this. But we held the line and we made sure that we showed the way. So I think what you'll see increasingly over the next year is you will see more and more people come out and say, probably if you have a healthy 5 or 6-year-old kid, you probably don't need to be doing it. Actually, if you look at how the FDA, when they debated this, most of those people that were contributing to that were saying, I'm torn on this because I feel if we approve it for 5 to 11-year-olds, it may be mandated in schools, and we think that's a bad idea. We think for high-risk kids, we want to make it available, but clearly for a parent of a healthy kid, and particularly many of these kids that have recovered from COVID, they were even saying that this was something there. So I think just in the next 6 to 12 months, you'll see more people move in his direction, and I think that that's just the reality. And so because you have this thing where people are saying, like, you're not a good parent unless you do the COVID for very young kids, and that's just not true. It really is your choice. Just understand what the data shows. I don't think you can say that the data has shown certainly a huge benefit. At best you're looking at marginal, and at best you're looking at, some maybe marginal risks that may outweigh that. But so that's just the reality, and people can make those decisions. But let's talk in a year, and let's see who comes out and says, is it something that more people are recommending a year from now, or less people are recommending for young kids? And I think it's going to be less people are going to recommend it a year from now than are doing it today.
Governor, regarding property insurance, can you please tell me if you are planning to veto any budget items from lawmakers that did not back you in your redistricting efforts at this point?
So I haven't reviewed the budget yet. I mean, we're going to go through that. I think as many of you know, there's a lot of line items in there. It takes a lot of time to be able to go through that. I can tell you that, of course, there will be vetoes in the budget. That's just the nature of it. I think when they did the budget conference, they probably agreed to certain spending to get it through, knowing that the governor would come in and maybe save the day on some of this stuff. And look, at the end of the day, we're fortunate because our economy's been very strong. We have booming revenues. And so they've had an ability to put maybe more in the budget. And if it's something that's good, like here, I said I'll approve it. There's other things that I'll approve. There's some things that are probably going to be a bridge too far. What I think is important to just say is, I respect when the legislature makes these decisions. At the same time is, don't get carried away with any irrational exuberance about just because our fiscal situation is so strong. I think even with a lot of these projects, I think we have the highest percentage of unallocated surplus general revenue compared to our overall general revenue spend in the history of the state, or certainly in the modern history of the state. So that's very strong fiscal posture. But at the same time, I want to make sure we're as strong as possible. And if there's areas that I can do to address, we will do that. But these are decisions that you make based on the best interest of the taxpayer and the best interest of the state of Florida. So, okay, we will see you guys. Thanks so much.
There'll be a September, like beginning of the school year.